And that is why we have this wonderful speaker today. She's Puno. She's UP alumnus. So we speak up with our alumnus. And she is a real wordsmith. Puno is a spoken word artist and has performed on local and international platforms for almost 10 years. Her wealth lies in her words. She launched a social media innovation project called Harvest Books. You must go and look for it. That will encourage children in rural Limpopo to build a reading habit. And Puno, I would like to donate, for sure I suspect it's about donating books. Please enlist me there. Limpopo is in my heart for all the good reasons. And you can find more about the project on Instagram at Harvest Books ZA. Puno wields words as a sword and wants nothing more than to uplift, to inspire, to breathe hope into the world with words. That is her art. And please make sure that you learn from her. Puno, over to you. Do your thing.
I am Puno, Puno the poet. I invite you to understand my words and me. I've been told that I should have been born bitter and angry. In some spaces, I am too woman, too black. The words I utter, too woman, too black. But I say no. My words are birthed from the soil in my own chest. People keep digging graves with every phrase, but I'm planting flowers instead. I am not angry, I am brave. I am not abrasive, I am determined. I am not too woman, I am woman enough. I am not too black, I am a dark chocolate delight. And I will work these words and toil the soil until the joy in my bones grows. Here, this tongue is sharp, and I will shape my own exceptional reality using only the finest materials like hope and humanity. What will your words be? Choose wisely, and let's use words that grow well here in South Africa. Good morning, everybody.
Wow. Wow. Wow.
It is so very lovely to be here with you all and to be having this conversation. I'm loving the showers. I see them. As Dr. Madiba so graciously introduced me, my name is Puno Selesho, and as I introduce myself as well, I have the privilege to share with you some of my poetry, as well as just where I come from in terms of the art of communication. I am a communicator, and I'm also an artist. I'm an entrepreneur. So I've actually made a living out of my art, and I've made a living out of words and communication. So I have spent majority of my very small 25 years of life learning how to do this well, learning how to not just do it for fun as a hobby, but make a living out of it, and also make sure my entire life is about words and about good words that, like Dr. Madiba said, inspires and brings hope to people. And I hope to share a bit of that with you. I must do a mini shout out to my mom as well. She's definitely in the room. She's one of the mentors. And I am so excited to be part of the G4G community, at least for this morning. So thank you. But let's get stuck in. Please, if I start getting to that end of time mark, that 15-minute mark, please ring the bell, tell me to stop. That would be really good and helpful. So, ladies, I know that you guys had some pre-work. You guys did watch a video, which I also got to see, from, I think he's a Harvard professor who's really good at the art of communication. That's what he teaches. That's how he has equipped people to show up as the best version of themselves, whether it's in the workplace, whether it's on platforms, whether it's in their lives and communities. And there are three main principles that you guys learned, correct? First one was be clear. The second one was be persuasive. And the last one was be inspirational. Now, these things, as a storyteller, as somebody who has written and performed poetry for the last 10 years, who has gotten to the point now, again, as I said, this is my job, this is my life. I do what I love and I love what I do. I cannot agree more with these terms. We have to be clear, we have to be persuasive, and we have to be inspirational. However, it's not as easy as just switching on a switch and saying, today I'm going to be clear, and then you go into the boardroom and you are clear. There is some pre-work that has to get done. There's some work that we have to do in our own lives, in our own hearts, in our own relationships, interpersonal, so that when we show up on platforms, when we show up on social media, when we show up in boardrooms, in places where we are going to influence, in places where we want people to hire us, in places where we're going to be running businesses and we are needing to convince other people of these brilliant ideas that we have sitting in our bellies, in our wombs, as my mom loves to say, the things that we're going to birth. We need to do the work behind the scenes so that when we go out on the stage, we arrive authentically. It has to be authentic. These three principles of being clear, being persuasive, and being inspirational. You'll be able to tell the difference between somebody who has just sort of practiced it and somebody who's actually living it. And today I want to teach you how to live your communication, how to live so authentically and communicate yourself so authentically every day with everyday people, so that when you are in your spaces and places of influence, when you are shining, you've done the work behind the scenes. Some of the greatest leaders in the whole world, from from local to international, from people in religious spaces to business spaces, they've gone through lessons in their own personal lives. They've gone through the trials first. They've been prepared. They've been, for instance, if we're thinking of swords, a sword, in order for it to be sharp, and you know how words are described as a sword, in order for a sword to be sharp, it gets forged in fire first. There's a preparation to it. In order for bread to be presented beautifully, it has to be baked, it has to be kneaded, it has to have yeast, it has to have all of these ingredients behind the scenes before it gets spread on the table. And I don't want you guys to become fly-by-nights, you know, one-hit wonders where like, oh, they were great for a moment. No. I want you guys to become the kind of leaders and the kind of communicators that are timeless. You have substance, you last forever, for a lifetime. People must be talking about you for years to come. So therefore, I'm going to teach you about the preparation phase. And again, you hear a lot of things of people say, oh, you know, she was an overnight success. Like all of a sudden, where did Puno come from? Overnight successes are usually made over 10 years' time. I was writing and creating in my room by myself for years before I performed for the first time when I was about 15 years old. And even from 15 to 25, it's been a lot of preparation, doing free gigs, traveling here and there, trying this project, doing all of those things. And now all of a sudden people are like, oh, where did you come from? No, I've been practicing things. I've been working. I've been forged in the fire. I've been in this prep phase for a while, and now I'm ready to be able to pass on what I've learned so far as I continue on my journey. So let's break it down. Let's get down to the practical. In the video, in order to be clear, the message was communicating that when you communicate with others, you have to do so with clarity. People need to understand clearly, based on the choice of words, what you mean, what you're saying, why you are saying it, what values underpin what you're saying, who the audience, you need to know your audience, who you're speaking to, and all of those things. People shouldn't feel lost when you communicate to them. People shouldn't feel like they're trying to understand or they're too shy to ask for clarity. It must be clear. So what sits behind that? What is the substance that I want to teach you or give you behind that? Number one, it's being able to set good boundaries in your life. Healthy boundaries protect and preserve relationships. And in order to set healthy boundaries, you have to communicate your boundaries. But in order to know what your boundaries are, you need to know yourself. Know what is good for you, what is healthy for you, the people that are good for you, the people that are healthy for you, how much time and energy you have to spend on certain things, and where you can't go over that, being able to set the boundary and say, listen, I'm able to go this far, but no further. That is clear communication. that protects yourself, protects your energy, protects who you are, your vision, your goal, and protects the other person as well. Because when we mix boundaries, then we get weird codependent relationships. Then we get power dynamics that are unequal. Then we expend ourselves too much because we didn't clearly communicate where I end and where the other person begins. Healthy boundaries in all relationships, whether it's an employer or employee, whether it's with your partner, whether it's mother-daughter, clear boundaries really protects and preserves relationships. There is a concept in the coaching world. I do one-on-one coaching and group coaching as well. There's a concept in the coaching world called the line of insanity. On one side of the line of insanity, it's what you can control. What we can control is what we think, what we feel, what we say, which is part of the art of communication, and what we do. That is our responsibility. Nobody can control those things for us, and that's where the boundary sits. On the other side, we have what we can influence, and that is what other people think, what other people feel, what other people say, and what other people do. Between that is the line of insanity. If we try and control other people, we're going to go crazy. It is impossible. With your communication, do not be manipulative. Do not try and control other people's thoughts, feelings, and what they say and what they do. All you can do is inspire them. All you can do is influence them. The decision will always remain in their hands, and vice versa. People cannot control you. They can influence you, and you can decide to say yes, no, or maybe, but you are in control of your own life. In the intro poem that I said that people have labeled me as angry, people have labeled me as abrasive, people have said I'm too woman, I'm too black, and I said, no. You might influence my world, but there's a line here, and I will let you not come any further. I am a vocal activist in terms of advocating for people of color, advocating for women, but I do so with kindness, and I do so from a loving space. I'm not going to follow the ways of just aggression or being an activist for the sake of wanting to burn everything down. Yes, that is the narrative worldwide, maybe, but that's not my narrative. I get to control the boundary of what I do, what I say, how I say it, etc. If I know what my boundaries are, I can be clear. If I know what my boundaries are, I can clearly communicate to you my intentions for you. Even as you see, I've started the session of saying, this is the direction I'm going to take. I was clear as to what I'm going to say and what the point of what I'm going to achieve is. The second thing that comes under the category of being clear is you need to be bold. And boldness takes time to cultivate. But it is a beautiful thing when you get to that point where you are courageous enough. And I love that you guys work with the courageous leadership concept, where you are courageous enough and bold enough to speak out on your boundaries, because it is difficult, especially with the people that we love, to say, actually, this is how far I'm coming, and this is where I would like you to stop, or this is what I'm willing to do, or this is what I'm presenting of myself. It is difficult. But boldness is essential. And boldness comes from the space of understanding yourself, understanding how valuable you are and how valuable the things that are birthed within you are. You need to protect that fiercely. Protect your words fiercely. Our words are seeds. What seeds are planting in the ground, and what are they going to grow into? Words are things that build things and break things down. If you plant a kind word in somebody's life, it'll probably grow into something beautiful. So you need to know, you need to value and protect the things, your ideas, your words, what you do, your dreams and visions for your life. If you understand how valuable you are, you will then have the boldness to set the right boundaries, which will then result in clear communication, no matter what space or relationship that you're in. Cool. Let's go to the next point. The next point is about being persuasive, right? A good leader is a leader who takes people along with them, correct? They're the person who will convince you, and when I say convince, I mean in the positive sense of the term. They convince you to come with them. They help you buy into the vision, especially for instance running an organization. So for instance, with me, with Harvest Books, what we do is we sell pre-loved African literature written, so it's stories that are for and about Africa, and we use that income in order to run a program in Limpopo for readers, so that we can cultivate that culture of reading. If I get people onto the Harvest Books team, I need to be able to persuade them of the value of a reading culture, the value of preserving African literature, stories for and about us, stories that we've written. But in order to be persuasive, now we deal with the substance underneath that point. When we think communication, we always think words and speaking and how well I speak, how well I present myself. But what I have to say is that good communicators are the people who listen the best. You are only going to be able to persuade people to come alongside you if they feel heard. You need to listen. Sometimes we need to shut up and let the other voices in the room say they say. Because if we truly believe that every single person has something beautiful and valuable in them to offer in this world, we need to create safe spaces for other people to add their voice to the conversation. When people feel heard by you, will they trust and will be more willing to come alongside you and where you're taking them. Let us learn how to be good listeners. And I loved what Dr. Madiba said in the beginning, is that it's not about extrovert or introvert. It's not about big personality, small personality, or I'm good with words, I'm not good with words. Everybody has something to add, and we just need to listen and listen differently. Some people need longer times, some people need shorter times. Let us learn how to listen. The second thing in how to be persuasive, learn the art of vulnerability. If you haven't engaged in Brene Brown's literature, I would recommend it, whether online, whether it's her books. I would say books because reading is life. Vulnerability is showing up fully as ourselves and allowing people to see us who we are. We don't have to be the smartest, the funniest, the prettiest, the most talented, etc., etc. We just need to be human beings. People actually don't relate to people who are the best at everything. That's why social media is a bit flawed, because we see the highlight reel of people. We don't see the vulnerable moments. I can only relate to a human who is also flawed, who is trying their best, and who actually wants to take other people with them, because that's vulnerable. Being able to put your trust in a moment and say, this is who I actually am. That is what people relate to. People don't necessarily relate to the Beyoncés because we've only seen her perfect life. She's great, she's inspirational, but I'm more interested in the vulnerability. I'm more interested as a performer, as a person who goes onto stage. I want to know, how does she get the strength and the courage to carry on being on stage when she's had a really hard night, when she's maybe cried the night before? I want to know, what is her strength that she acquires to then go on stage and perform greatly? That is what puts me in awe of humans, when they can show how they overcome the toughness and become the best versions of themselves, not people who pretend to just be great. So in order to persuade people, you need to be vulnerable in how you communicate and what you communicate. Then, persuasion is let me give this example. In the corporate world, I've worked a little bit in corporate before I went on my own. There is this assumption that we have to be aggressive, in order to be a go-getter, in order to get the corner office, in order to become the CEO, you have to be aggressive, you have to be mean, you have to elbow people out of the way. And it's worked for some time for some people. But I promise you this, the kindest people are the people that will get to the corner office, are the people who will convince and persuade people to buy into the vision that they are trying to set. They will buy into the agenda, they'll buy into the values of the organization. Kind people will get leaders who will stay with them for years and years. You're not going to be hiring and firing and have this higher retention rate because nobody wants to stay and you don't understand why nobody's staying. Be kind. Kindness is not weakness. Kindness is not weakness. If you know how to set proper boundaries, then you will be able to allow your kindness to outflow and be full without being taken advantage of. Do not allow people to take advantage of you in your kindness, but be kind. That is persuasive. Kindness is persuasive. Then the third one is about being inspirational, right? As we know, people love to be inspired. We want inspirational stories. I do content creation as a big part of what I do, and putting things on social media, putting things on the internet, and even when I speak in public spaces, it's about inspiring people, about activating those parts in their hearts the way they're like, yes, I want bigger, I want better, I want more, I want to achieve, I want better from this life. I want healthier ecosystems, healthier societies. I'm inspired. I feel like I can. Being inspirational is such a key. It unlocks so much. And I think that ties into kindness, that ties into boldness, that ties into our boundaries. We can't inspire people in a substantial manner if we don't have boundaries, if we're not bold, if we're not kind, if we're not vulnerable. Inspire people with genuine things. It's not about buying Louis Vuitton and Gucci handbags only. Inspire people to be better human beings. But how do we do that? Again, what is the substance that sits behind the principle of inspiration? It's the human story. People are inspired by stories. Learn how to tell stories. Have a beginning, have a middle, have an end, have a lesson, have a main character. Color things in. I feel like gone are the times when we sit in boardrooms and have a really boring Monday morning meeting where there's nothing exciting, there's nothing that tickles my senses, my sight, my vision, my auditory abilities, my senses of touch and taste. Imagine once a week in boardrooms we start to say, today we're having an ice cream day, next week we're having a this day. Don't you think people would want to arrive to work? Don't you think people would want to arrive to that res committee meeting or, the hacker meeting if we add exciting elements into it? If we start telling human stories, to show you as a proof point that human stories work, just look at advertising. Adverts they don't say, oh, I'm selling this mask is made of this kind of a quality, it stretches, please buy it. No, now they put a face to it. Now they're going to say, Siya Kolisi, he grew up in a hard background and now he's growing, and now he's a superstar, the head boy of South Africa, and he wears this mask. Buy the mask. Because we've heard a human story, we then are like, yeah, I love that story. If this product is associated with a story like that, I want that because my story looks and feels like that. My story is heading in that direction. We buy into human stories. I've attached my story to many other brands, to whiskey brands, to banks, to even Avbo Poetry as a competition, saying, this is my story. And my story is about hope and humanity. And my story is about overcoming and inspiring others. And I believe in products and brands who align with that story, who have the same brand vision. Let's partner together to help other people unlock their stories. So in order to be inspirational, have a human story. To wrap up, I'll say this. All of these things, from boundaries, boldness, listening, vulnerability, having your human story, will help you to be clear, persuasive, and inspirational. And it will show in your words the kind of language that you use, your body language, how you carry yourself, and the actions that you do towards others. Communication is not just words, communication is also what we do, and also in our online personas. What our bios are on Twitter, on Instagram, on Facebook, on LinkedIn, in the pictures that we post, in how beautiful it looks. And when a future employee Googles you, because every single time I've applied for a job or applied to write a poem for a specific company, they've Googled me first. What do you look like online? That is part of your communication. That's all from me. Thank you so much for listening. I know it was a big mouthful. But thank you so much, and I've really enjoyed it.
Thank you